With John Delancey returning to Star Trek as Q for Picard Season 2, a lot of us are wondering what the hell the character will be up to and how he'll play into the show. We think one of the best ways to figure out what we'll get from Q's big comeback is to take a look back at some of the best Q episodes from Star Trek The Next Generation and dig for clues. That's why our podcast, Star Trek Discovery Pod, is producing a new series reviewing some of these awesome classic Q episodes. We just watched the amazing Season 6 episode Tapestry, and we think there's a lot to glean from this episode that could potentially play into Picard Season 2. So here's a clip from our recent podcast live stream with me, Grant Davis, and Clyde Haynes, covering Tapestry, Q, Picard, and how everything Q did in Tapestry might be setting up Picard Season 2. Real quick, we live stream the podcast right here on this channel, Thursdays at 9 p.m. Central. And I'm inviting you to join us for the next live podcast. It's a hell of a good time. And now, as promised, here's that clip.
If we're using this series of us taking a look at all these Q episodes to kind of train us for what we might anticipate with Picard Season 2, now having rewatched this for you and me watch this for the first time, what are you thinking we can glean from this for what we can anticipate?
I really think that the idea that Q is preparing Picard for something that he needs, that Q needs, is going to culminate in Picard Season 2. I think a lot of these tests and visits and journeys that he takes Picard on throughout TNG are all just like preparation for something that Q needs or wants. And I don't trust Q at all. So I think his motivations are very selfish. But I also think that the best Q episodes involve magical time travel and magical space travel. And what I mean is, like in that Borg episode we saw the other day, where Q snaps them into the Delta Quadrant, someplace they couldn't go themselves. And in this episode where Q throws them back in time. And then the finale, which we're going to watch again, where Q has Picard zipping through like 3 different time periods. I think that kind of unexpected space and time travel is going to come into play with Q in Picard Season 2. And I think one of the reasons that they are bringing Q back is so they can do that. They can maybe do some quantum leap adventures with Picard and Jurati and his whole crew. And a way to do that is by introducing Q, who can magically do that.
If ultimately this episode was Q trying to get Picard to be comfortable with the choices he made, and accept that even if there were some bad choices along the way, the person you are and the place you're at is a result of all the good and all the bad, and you need to embrace that for what it is. I guess that makes me kind of wonder about a lesson lost, I guess, by Picard in that little teaser, where it does seem like Picard's once again reflecting on the past, being nostalgic and a little bit melancholy about it. And is he once again falling into the trap of regret? Are
you talking about the end of this episode?
I'm talking about Season 2, the Season 2 trailer for...
Right.
What we do in a crisis often weighs upon us less heavily than what we wish we had done. What could have been. Time offers so many opportunities, but never second chances.
What this episode really kind of spoke to me was that we have these regrets, right? And we think that, man, if I could just go back, and if I could do this, if I could date that girl, take that job, things would have been different. And what we don't always understand is that these choices, even these small choices, have made a big impact. And so I think it's a lesson that we all struggle with, right? We all have this revisionist history where we look back and like, man, I should have went left when I went right. And Picard is in a situation where like he's dead. Right. And he's looking and going, I died. And Q sets him up because he says, well, why are you dead? Well, you're dead because you have this artificial heart. If you had a real heart. So in that moment, he's being told, man, if you had a real heart, you wouldn't be dead. Right. Like at that point, Q has given him the regret. And he's going, okay, well, I want to live. Who doesn't want to live? And so I'm going to go back and change it.
This is part of Q's manipulation. For what end game? I'm not really sure.
Yeah, and his end game has to be a selfish one, right? It's not. I mean, sure, he is fascinated by Picard, and I'm not sure if he's in love with him, but he's fascinated by him. But he's not trying to help Picard for Picard's sake, right? I don't get that vibe.
I don't think, though, that he's a trickster for being a trickster's sake. I mean, Q is to some extent, he's a surrogate for the writers wanting to impart a moral for the story for each week, right? He's a plot device of a character that allows them to have Picard learn a lesson. So it's not simply a trickster. Q's end goal in at least the 3 episodes I've seen is that he's making Picard learn something each time.
I thought this was one of the better, if not best, Q episodes, right? I thought it was more measured. It seemed like it had a point from beginning to end. It felt cohesive. My only kind of concern is not really about this episode, because I thoroughly enjoyed this episode. My concern is if we think that Picard, oh my goodness, if we think that Picard is going to be more of, this season with Q is going to be more of this, like, oh, he's going back and undoing his regrets. I got to be honest, that's going to get boring fast, right? Like, that's a whole new show. We are now watching Quantum Leap, right? Which
I like
would
Quantum
be
Leap.
more. I like Quantum Leap too. I don't like Quantum Leap only specific to Picard's episode, like lifetime, right? And with Q tricking him half the time.
What if Q set up some sort of, hey, do you remember that time in Tapestry? Remember that episode of Tapestry, Picard, where I brought you back in time to get your heart stabbed a couple more times and it felt awful? And you're like, oh, I got to relive that.
Remember when those Nausicaans kicked your fucking ass?
Yeah, it was great. But like, what if it's more like the lesson we learned there is that if you change your past, you change your future. But if we go back in time and have you next to yourself, if Q says, hey, you and your squad, including Kim Pine and the rest of the crew, we're going to take you guys as a team and jump back in time to pivotal points in Picard's life where things need to go just a tweak different and make them into some sort of squad that needs to execute a mission each episode to kind of fix that in the background. Like, so they like use old episodes and then have them like sneaking around in the background in the hallways and shit. That'd be kind of dope.
Okay, so you're saying that Picard in season 2, you want to see him not jump back into his old body like Quantum Leap style or like Wolverine in Days of Future Past style. You want to see him like working, like he's already there, but there's 2 Picards occupying the same space.
Yeah, like the Avengers in Endgame when they jump back in time as a group.
Yeah.
And kind of pulling off heists like that.
That would be fun, which the first season of that show was not super fun. So I'd be all for
Clyde,
it.
It's time to jump the shark.
Oh, are you against that, Clyde? You're against like a Quantum Leap?
No. I'm not against it. What I said to Grant was, if we do that, then what has happened is someone has said season 1 was such a disaster. This show cannot hold up on its own. We've got to start pulling out the gimmicks and the gadgets to make a go of it. And that might be true.
Marge says, what exactly would Picard be fixing? Which, yeah,
season 1 of Picard.
Oh my God.
No, I think
second season is all about making the first season watchable.
It's like X-Men. It's like X-Men Days of Future Past, where they erased X-Men United or whatever it was. Kern says, I assume season 2 of Picard will be around 10 episodes. I can imagine a mini arc of 3 or 4 episodes where Q jumps Picard back into time. Yeah, that would be cool if we get like just a mini fun Q arc instead of like the entire season.
But it feels like Q is pivotal to the season, or else like that teaser was very misleading. If
I think
Q
John
is just
Delancey,
a small part of it.
I think John Delancey has said he's filmed like 6 episodes, And he might even be filming season 3 episodes he's teasing. So,
Okay.
yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of Q.
I think that this becomes less the Picard show than it becomes more the Q show if you let this go on too much.
Oh, please. That'll probably make it better. I mean, seriously, though, like what we're looking at is Picard can only go up from season 1, right?
I would hope so.
I don't know that I thought it was that bad.
It wasn't that
Right.
bad, but it wasn't great. Yeah.
The more I reflect on it, it is one of those regrets in my life that I
Well-
wish Q could take me back and make me not watch.
Grant, tell people how they can support the pod.
You guys want to support this pod? Why don't you go ahead to patreon.com/Star Trek Pod and make your $2 an episode pledge. Give us $2 an episode, and in exchange, you can join us on our private exclusive Slack channel where you can chat with other people. You can join for watch-alongs that are happening a few times a week, and just a lot of great discussion, a lot of Trek positivity. And I think that's what we need in this world. So patreon.com/Star Trek Pod. Give that $2 an episode pledge, and we appreciate you supporting podcasts that you kind of like.
Yes, and find us at StarTrekPod.co. Sub to our YouTube channel. We're going to be dropping a lot more videos in the coming weeks and months and days and years. Thanks for watching. Live long and prosper.